Uh, Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Enrique Granados. I'm an assistant director of admissions at School Year Abroad, and welcome to our SYA Italy live event. We're very happy to have you here. Next to me, I have my colleague, Shauna Campbell. Would you introduce yourself, please, Shauna?
Hi, everyone. My name is Shauna Campbell, and I'm the SYA admissions marketing manager here at SYA. Before we get started, I just want to point out the chat box on the right-hand side of your screen. Please feel free to introduce yourself. If you're a student, let us know your name, where you're from, and what school you go to. And if you're a parent, please put your name and possibly the name of your student as well.
So we want to welcome everyone out there watching this afternoon, wherever you may be. For those of you who are a little new to SYA and want to learn a little bit more, kind of curious, I'm going to go over some quick facts about what SYA is about. So at its core, SYA is a year-long study abroad and homestay opportunity for high school students in their sophomore, junior, or senior year. Now, you always apply the year prior to your attendance. So for those of you looking to attend your junior year, you apply during your sophomore year. So that's just a quick frame of reference. We do have language requirements for some of our programs. For SYA Italy, though, you are not required to speak Italian or, prior to your arrival in Italy. You are, however, required to have at least 1 year of foreign language experience to make sure that you have some experience, getting out there and learning a new language. So with that, I'd love to introduce the people that we have up on screen here with us today. We have two students and our resident director, Pat Scanlon. Pat.
Hi, everybody, and what we would say is buonasera. It is 9 p.m. Viterbo time. You guys are, if you're watching this in Eastern time, it's nice and sunny. And here it is pitch dark, and we are into the nighttime hours. I welcome you from our home in Viterbo, where next year we would welcome you to our 20th year as SYA Italy. Enrique is giving you the background. Generally, our students come from all over the United States. We enjoy having students from all kinds of backgrounds. Mostly are raw beginners who make immense progress in the language from year to year, enjoy a vast array of elective offerings, but with an English and math program that keeps you in sequence with sending school's expectations. That's the scholastic part, and yet that is related as well to a place-based experiential education mission that drives the activities, projects, and work that we have the students do. An advisement program like you might be used to at an independent school, but a day-to-day schedule that rotates, I would say, with fieldwork classes, non-fieldwork classes that we can get into a little bit later. The fieldwork classes related to activities that are done very often outside of the school in a real-world environment right here in Italy.
Awesome, thank you. And then our two students, would you guys please introduce yourselves?
Yeah, I'm Imogen. I'm from Boston, from the Noble and Greeno School.
I'm Nate. I'm from Charlotte, and I go to Charlotte Latin School.
Awesome. Now, we're so thankful to have you guys here with us. At the top of the list, which I'm sure is one of the reasons that many of the people out there watching and going to watch later, is why did you decide to apply to SYA?
Well, I personally think that Italian is one of the most beautiful languages ever, and I really, really wanted to learn it. And I knew no Italian going into this, so I wanted to have the experience of being completely immersed in it, not knowing what was going on. And it ended up being great. I'm learning super fast, and I've met amazing people here.
Yeah, I also was attracted mainly to the idea of learning a new language. I had studied a little bit of Italian prior to coming here on my own, so that helped the decision in deciding which school to attend. And also because back in Charlotte, I studied classics, and that was something I saw this as an opportunity to continue.
Awesome, thanks. Now, naturally, you guys are well into your school years. You guys have already had a couple of breaks, a couple of local holidays, a few school trips. What's your favorite part of your SYA experience so far?
I would have to say it's the people that I've met here, my host family for sure. And then also these little moments of connection you have with people. Like today in my global and local perspectives class, we had a bunch of immigrants come in and we got to talk with them about their stories coming to Italy. And it was just amazing to hear their own personal experiences and connect it to what we've learned in class.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Definitely the host family makes it an incredible experience for everyone. And in addition to that, just learning Italian from local Italians is something that you can't really get anywhere other than here. For example, the other night I was eating dinner with some friends and one of our Italian friends, Lorenzo, and he was teaching us, just as we ate, some examples of the Viterbese dialect. And that was just a really cool thing.
Awesome. Now, at its core, SYA is school, and I'm sure you guys have plenty of experiences, surrounding your school, some of the classes you're taking. What about outside of school? What are your extracurricular activities you're participating in right now in Viterbo at SYA Italy?
We do a lot of the same extracurriculars. So we both are in orchestra. I take flute lessons outside of school. We're also in a really cool activity called Gemellaggio, which means twinning in Italian. And it's where Italians come to our school at like 3 right after it ends. And we swap languages and just discuss current issues and life.
In addition to that, so I do violin and I'm in the same orchestra. And on the days that we don't have Gemellaggio, a lot of times we do tutoring at a local middle school where we're just doing some conversation practice with the students in English and just talking about whatever interests them, but trying to engage them in having more confidence in speaking English and improving their language skills.
Well, I just want to add that any vast array of opportunities are available. We have, if I could just go from memory here, we have a student in volleyball. We form a small soccer team that plays together and coached by a local coach. But to penetrate into the seriousness of Italian soccer is kind of difficult. So there are a lot of students that come with soccer experience. But in the past, we've had students play basketball. There's actually a baseball team. They've done some softball with some of the girls. Art experiences abound with stained glass making, sculpture, painting, and other volunteer activities that really would count for service hours at any school that are working at a local kitchen that serves the needy on Saturday mornings. The regular in-school activities like yearbook. It's sort of an array with some limits. We don't have a sports structure associated with us, so we tap in to the local sporting scene of track and field, and some students have done cycling over the years. Again, just I'm going to peek over here at some of what the students are doing.
Skateboarding.
Tell us a little more about skateboarding. Go ahead.
We have a friend that has been skating with a bunch of the locals and actually taught a few to skate. And what else? We do football with some Italians sometimes. American football. Yeah. And I had no idea how to play before, but we kind of all learned together. It was really fun.
Is it tackle or touch?
No, it's touch.
Okay.
Actually, we had someone just ask, do you guys have musical theater?
They're not participating in it, but there are opportunities to do theater, and musical theater varies from year to year. We're associated with 1 or 2 groups that do theater, but there is a chorus. Musical theater per se, I'm not sure what they could find is opera. This is the birthplace of opera, the original musical theater.
I think that's about as a musical theater as it gets. I think the OG, the original musical theater.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, guys. One of the core parts of the SYA experience is going to be your host family. And Imogen, you've already kind of alluded to this a little bit, but what is it like to live with your host families?
And who's part of your host family?
Yeah.
So, go into detail of do you have a host mom, dad, siblings, and what's it like living with them?
So I was really nervous to have a host family going into this, just the idea of complete strangers and living in their house. But SYA did such a good job pairing me with mine. And I have a little sister, she's 12. She's very sassy and very fun to hang around. And I have two parents, mom and dad. And my dad actually has a small winery, and we partner with the school and we make wine together. And it's amazing how passionate he is about it. He tells it to me so much, like what the process of making wine and how it's going. And he just gets so excited about his business and also about Italian history and culture. And it's amazing. We went to Venice a few weeks ago, and he told me all about the churches we went into and every place we went. It was just amazing. He knew so much about it and was able to share it out with me.
Yeah, so I have two host parents and two host brothers, and SYA did a really good job of pairing me with my host family, because we did a questionnaire and I mentioned a lot about my interest in music, and my older host brother does DJing as a hobby, and I hear him all the time in his room like mixing tracks. So we bonded over that pretty quickly. My host dad is actually a driver for the president of Italy. So that's a fun fact.
That's a big fun fact, I think. That's pretty cool. Yeah, your host dad is the driver for the president of Italy. That's pretty awesome.
One of the drivers.
One of the drivers.
Imogen, you just mentioned that you went on one of the school trips. What is it like to travel with SYA? Where else have you guys been?
So the trip I mentioned is actually just with my host family, but we've been already to Terracina and Bologna.
Those are the overnighters, Terracina and Bologna. But you've had some day travel opportunities, but also some field work. But elaborate a little bit on Bologna and Terracina, if you will.
Yeah, okay, so Terracina was close to the beginning of the school year, and a lot of that was like an orientation, and we did a lot of activities that were sort of getting used to the, I guess, idea of navigating a city and just navigating Italian culture on our own. So that got us into the routine of just being able to adjust to a new culture. And then, I don't know if you want to talk about Bologna.
So Bologna was more like an extended fieldwork trip. We had assignments for all of our elective classes and for Italian too. So we would go out during the day and do our work, and we would also have a lot of free time to explore the city on our own. And we went and did day trips from Bologna too.
So keep going. What was some of like the projects that you were doing when you were there, and how did the day trips work? I think because you guys did a very good job to execute and appreciate those opportunities.
So one of the coolest things, in my opinion, that we did is we went to Parma and we saw how Parmigiano was made, and we actually went into the factory and saw every single step. It was so cool, even though it smelled really bad, but it was really cool. Yeah.
Full experience, full of
Yeah. Oh yeah. And we had also we're learning how to make cheese in agro right now. So it exactly relates to what we're doing back here in Viterbo.
And I'm going to push there were things that you guys were doing where you might not see us all day long.
Right.
Yeah.
Can you think of one of the things you did where we saw your breakfast and we didn't see you again till bed check? What were some of the things you guys were doing during the day?
So prior to departing for Bologna, in our class, language and culture, we had 3 cities that were close to Bologna to research, and we had to, based off of our research, we were told to choose one of those to do a day trip from Bologna. And so I chose Ravenna, and that's an example of that. We ate breakfast at the hotel, and then from then on, we just,
Got on a train,
went to Ravenna, and did some, I guess, insight research there.
saw the mosaics.
Right.
And then came back and had your own meals, and we checked you in for dinner. And you turned in assignments after the trip was over, I believe, that corresponded to those requirements, right?
Right.
Awesome. Those sound awesome. One day I'll get there. One day I'd love to see it.
Bravo.
You've mentioned fieldwork a few times now, for both of you, and Pat included. Could you tell us about the fieldwork? What is it like? What type of work are you doing when you're doing fieldwork at SYA Italy?
It can be all kinds of work for any class that we have here. It happens every Wednesday, and sometimes it'll be geared towards language and culture or global. For example, our past fieldwork we did this Wednesday was about the Holocaust and the Jewish presence in Viterbo, and we watched La Vita Bella and listened to a talk by a local professor.
And then the afternoon was what?
Right, so the afternoon we listened to a presentation from a professor at the University of Viterbo.
And then you went out to some of those sites.
We went out to some of the sites that that he mentioned, and we were asked to go to one of them and imagine what it would have been like in a time period and do a drawing of whatever that particular site was, keeping in mind sort of the atmosphere of the time.
So from the point of view of those of us who planned this for our students, we have a 2-week unit that revolves around the Day of Memory, the Global Day of Memory, which is actually Monday. And you could study the Holocaust, or what it's called here is the Shoah, in a textbook in the United States or in other countries. And here you could actually stand on the threshold of a door where people were taken, deported, and exterminated. And I thought I would just compliment you in front of everybody here that you guys really understood the spirit and the seriousness of this and just got it. But it is really vital that it's not just in a textbook. It really happened, unfortunately, and it's important. We think it's important that we remember it and study it.
Yeah, no, it's incredibly important for all the students as they live locally to be immersed, and that's something that I think SYA is one of its highlights overall. What would you guys say it's like to live in Viterbo? What are your highlights of the city so far?
So I'm from Boston, and moving to Viterbo was a really big change for me. It's a lot smaller here. There's not really public transportation. There's buses for kids who live outside, but it's much less extensive than in a larger city. But there's such good things about being in a small enclosed city. You get to know the locals really, really well, and the kids. We see our Italian friends walking to school, walking around the town pretty much every day. And we know the people at the restaurants we go to frequently. And it's just great to have that sense of community that I don't really have back home. So
I think Viterbo, being a small town, is also perfect for cultural and language immersion program. The cultural part, especially what Imogen was saying about you get to know a pretty large percentage of the community pretty quickly. And linguistically, just because since it doesn't get quite as much of the tourist attraction as some big cities like Rome and Milan, a lot of the people here are more eager to speak to you in Italian instead of reverting immediately to English. That's helped me a lot in learning the language. And also just its position in Italy is really beneficial, being so close to Rome. For field work and for independent day travel, I go to Rome all the time for various activities.
Real quickly, you mentioned you see your friends walking to school. What are some? That's not an easy thing to do. Is to make friends. If you're a teenager and you move anywhere, you've moved to a foreign country. What are the ways you've been able to make friends, and how is it that you see them?
well, gymnasium is one. A lot of my Italian friends were made through that program. And that's when I mentioned where we switch languages and talk with each other. And we sometimes meet up after school and go to a cafe and talk and help each other with homework. And relationships also don't start in school. I mean, yeah, we have a friend that knows a lot of Italians, and once you know someone who knows them, then you know them too, and it just, everyone gets connected.
Oh yeah, Sei Giorni. So I don't remember which month it was.
November
November.
and
okay.
coming up again in February.
Right. So November we did an activity called Say Journey, where each of the students went to a different class in a local Italian high school, and we were sitting there in the classes and learning the material with the Italian students. So that was a big way that a lot of us made new Italian friends, and we're about to go back in February, so we'll see them all again, and hopefully they'll see that our Italian's improved.
They will see. They will see that.
I hope so. Come on, guys, gotta give us some credit here. You guys are working extremely hard on your Italian. For those viewers that are just joining us or have been with us a little bit after the beginning, again, my name is Enrique Granados. I'm an admissions officer at SYA. I want to remind you that on your screen you should see a live chat box. If you haven't already introduced yourself, please introduce yourself, where you're from, your name, and any questions you might have as you follow along. Please, you can go ahead and type those in. Now, to piggyback on what we just talked about, your Italian level, what level of Italian were you before you got to SYA Italy?
I knew nothing, absolutely nothing. But it came really fast because I was forced to, and also I really, really wanted to. So if you have motivation, you will learn it 100%.
Yeah, I had studied some Italian just on my own prior to coming here. But what I learned prior to coming here really can't compare to the progress I made since being here. Yeah, and it's just continuing to improve as I'm being put in situations where I'm forced to use it.
Could you guys give us an example of a sentence you couldn't have thought of saying in the beginning of September, and now you're like, now I can say this?
Why don't you say, this is tough because this one gets into some, I could never have imagined,
Okay.
that's tough. I could never have imagined my abilities 4 months ago.
Non avrei mai potuto immaginare, what was the
My abilities.
le mie abilità di parlare in italiano 4 mesi fa.
And
That's pretty good. Okay.
Would you say, I ride my bicycle to school even when it's cold?
Vado in bici a scuola se è freddo fuori.
They didn't know that was coming.
Good job, guys.
There you
That's
go.
impressive.
What's hard to do is to just think of something and translate it. So I give them a little spontaneous text.
Now, we have to give credit to your teachers, right? Your teachers are clearly the masterminds behind the work you guys are doing, either during field work or in your Italian language classes. How would you describe your relationships with your teachers and the faculty at SYA Italy?
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, because it's such a small school, you really get to know your teachers well. And I mean, I have a great advisor. This is his first year in Italy too, so it's great to have a shared experience with us. And yeah, I mean, they're just always here for anything that we need. It's really like a family here.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Relationship with, say, Mr. Sammartino, what's that like?
Yeah, so Mr. Sammartino is the classics teacher I was just mentioned earlier, one of the main reasons that I decided to come to Italy. And so I take Latin and Greek with him. It's a really amazing sort of approach to learning classics that I had never been exposed to before.
Which is what's different about the way he does it than what you were used to?
Well, my Latin class a lot of it is taught in it. The grammar isn't taught in Latin, but a lot of the historical background and just our conversations that sort of stem from our material is taught in Latin, which is something that helps you really internalize the language. And also in its correlation with field work, a lot of times our activities will be, say, go to Rome and find 10 inscriptions just anywhere and translate them. So it's something that you can't get anywhere else.
Yeah, no, that sounds amazing. I mean, your teachers are, they're specially selected for you guys. We always want to make sure that the students are having the best of time. So to hear, Mr. Sammartino and the work he's doing is just incredible. Now, you guys have been there for a little over a semester, right? what would you say is your biggest takeaway so far? Other than how to make cheese, I know that's a big takeaway. Probably took some cheese away too. What would you say is the lasting value for you guys?
That's hard. I think just learning how to find balance in my life. Like last year, for me personally, it's so easy to get focused on grades and everything like that. But here, there's just so many, you're always busy. And it's hard. It's really hard, especially in the beginning. But it's one of the biggest things that I've learned, how to manage my time with my friends and family and homework and learning the language. You're just constantly learning. But it's so rewarding to see how far you've come and how much you've done too.
Right. A big part for all of us is obviously just learning the language. That's something that hopefully will stick with us for the rest of our lives. And also just developing independence is a huge part of it. It's something that you're sort of thrown into from the beginning. And I think a lot of the students here were really frustrated in the beginning few days, just about sort of the way the activities were organized, because we were just told to do things, not how to do them or why necessarily we were doing them. And we had to sort of find meaning and find a way to do these, to navigate these activities. And by now, for a lot of us, it's just gotten so much easier.
Great. Well, we have some questions coming in, and I feel free to type more in, but let's start off with, since you are kind of reflecting on, your biggest takeaway so far, what do you guys think you're going to miss when you leave?
We're prepared for this.
That's a question someone has. When you go back to the US, could you name like one or two things you think you're going to miss about Viterbo?
I mean, everything about Viterbo. My friends I've made here, my host family, my host mom's cooking, for sure. She's an amazing cook. And just Italian culture in general, how welcoming everyone is, and how much people want to, like strangers on the street want to talk to you, and they want to do interviews with you for school. It's just it's so different, and it's amazing.
Yeah, host family is a big part of it. Just friends that I've made here, both outside of school and in school. Hearing Italian, I remember it was strange coming here and not hearing English. And now whenever I hear someone just on the street speaking English, I turn my head because it's something I'm not used to anymore, hearing just wherever I go.
I actually hear from a lot of students in June, and they write to me to say, I miss this, I miss that. And they find themselves missing things they did not expect. Kids miss being able to go to a piazza. So the way the urban plan is laid out in many European cities, and especially in Italy, there's just these open spaces where people go to gather. And you go to, and it's like culturally instituted hanging out. People miss the simplicity and the cost of good coffee. They miss the rhythms of life, the pace of life. And one who told me just last year, I know I became Italian because when I was an American, I walked from point A to get to point B, and now I just walk. So that was actually fresh from somebody about a month ago.
Wow. What about food? What do you think? What's been your like greatest Italian food discovery?
Oh my gosh.
Bingo. Carbonara is probably my favorite Italian dish.
What's in it?
Well, it's I guess you can use whatever sort of pasta you want, but it's an egg sauce, and it has, I guess, is it pancetta or
The purists do guanciale.
guanciale, okay. But it's a pork sort of meat. Yeah, I haven't learned to make it yet, obviously, but it's something that I would like
you
to
have
do.
learned to love it.
Yes.
How about you? Your host family says that you are very open-minded about eating everything they serve you.
No, I do eat everything. I'm gonna have to go with one of the classics, the cacio e pepe. It's also a traditional Roman dish, like from this region. It's pretty simple. It's just olive oil and cheese and pepper, but it's amazing.
But which cheese? Pecorino.
Pecorino.
And we will make it in class. and the temperature has to be perfect so that the cheese doesn't become, doesn't have globules and does melt properly. You also have to eat it fast because it's best done fresh. That's delicious.
Awesome. We do have a question up here about SAT prep and some of the test taking and college counseling that we offer. I think, well, I can mention from my side, we do offer the SATs at all 4 of our campuses around the world, but there is an SAT prep course. Pat, would you mind elaborating a little bit on that?
Yeah, we have a prep course available that is not actually part of SYA, but a company that comes in and uses our site. To be perfectly honest, we're probably transitioning to a different model where students can be more self-paced and guided by tutors, some of which, part of the courses where they show up on site, and others are guided from a distance learning perspective. The advantage to that is that it's more flexible. It's actually going to cost a little bit less. There's the traditional prep as well. We have books on site. Students do online prep that is part of something that you could just Google, and we're part of an organization called Method Test Prep that is an actual long-term course. We also believe that's important, but that our curriculum prepares you well for the tests themselves. And as you said, Enrique, the reasoning and subject tests are offered at all of our sites, as well as the advanced placement tests that are associated with some of our classes.
Pat, can you also mention just the ACT, because that was part of the question as well?
We have a couple of ACT sittings as well throughout the year. It's occasionally there's not enough inscriptions for it, and if the ACT doesn't have enough numbers, they will cancel the test. And that hasn't happened, but we're always on the borderline because not as many students are taking the ACT.
Awesome.
We also had a question, obviously this was from a parent, if parents can come and visit. So did either one of your parents visit, say during the holidays, or Pat, maybe you can talk about when is a good time for parents to visit?
And your parents came?
Yeah, my parents came. We stayed in Viterbo for a week and then went to Rome. It was one of the highlights of the year so far, being able to translate for them and having my 2 families meet. There's nothing like it. It's incredible.
Yeah, my parents also came for the holiday break, and I think that was one of the moments that allowed me most to measure the progress that I've made since coming here, with being able to translate between my host family and my American family. But we stayed in Viterbo for Christmas, and we had a very long lunch. It lasted like 3.5 hours. And then we went to Sorrento for New Year's and saw fireworks.
And I would simply say that because what you guys are able to achieve in it being a language and the ability to speak it is so visible for your parents to see, that it is an immense source of satisfaction for me to welcome parents and show you guys off in terms of your abilities. And the language is just part of it. It's your comfort in moving around, your ability to know, and I mean move around even in terms of your stature and your confidence, and parents see it immediately. We ask parents to refrain from visiting early, precisely to be able to allow you to have that growth. And a vast majority of our parents do visit, certainly not required, but Italy is a wonderful destination for people to come and see, especially during the holidays. With so much variety and so much beauty and so much astonishing history that it does make for really nice family vacations as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It sounds, amazing to say the least. We have one more question for you guys. And I know for you guys, the end of the year is going to come faster than you think, right? And it will have officially been just over a year from your application. So what would your advice be to students looking to apply to SYA? What would you tell them?
I know when I was applying and thinking about coming, I was really nervous about missing out on AP classes and like the SAT. I was scared I wouldn't get as good of a grade on it here. But to be completely honest, the amount that you're going to learn here about yourself and about life and just the kind of person you are and who you want to be in the world is far more valuable than anything you're ever going to learn at school, at home. And our classes here are unlike what you would have at home. The kind of connections that you can make with people that you meet, like for example, the immigrants coming just today, it's amazing. And you have so many opportunities to pursue what interests you. Like I'm going to Gin actually with Nate and another friend to present a project on waste management because that's something we're really passionate about.
Quickly say what GIN is.
Oh, sorry. It's a Globals Issue conference in Luxembourg. So that's something that I really care about, and I was able to pursue it and research it, and we're doing it here in Viterbo.
So in my advisory, we recently had an activity where we were just discussing the regrets that we see ourselves as possibly having by the end of the year and what we can do to keep those regrets from happening. And through that activity, I realized that one of the best pieces of advice that I could give prospective students would be to make the most of the experience from the very beginning. I think there were a lot of people who were talking about how they felt like they needed to keep up some of what was happening at home and they were trying to sort of ease the transition. But I would say just once you're here, just try to adapt as soon as possible and really embrace being here because I mean, it's already halfway over and yeah.
That was the slow half.
Right.
Yeah. So with that, I do want to wrap up our conversation here. There's a little bit of information we want to share with those viewing about the financial aid and the application process. So as a reminder, our application and financial aid deadline is going to be February 12th of 2020. Any information for your application, please submit it as soon as possible prior to the deadline, including financial aid. If you'd like to be considered for financial aid, you do need to meet that deadline. If you're interested in any more information about the courses or some of the information about maybe what is day in the life looks like, or maybe if you haven't watched the video yet, go on our website. SYA.org has lots of information about all of SYA Italy, including every single teacher that teaches there, all the courses that are on offer this year. You can even see their calendar. So you can see when the students got to see the Machina in the fall. You guys go find the calendar and find out, when they went to go see that. The other thing that we want to touch base about is that follow us on social media. The students that are interested in learning a little bit more and seeing what it's like to be abroad with SYA, please follow us at School Year Abroad on Instagram. We always post information on there, including the articles that our student bloggers write. So lots of great content there. Shauna, do you have anything else you want to add?
Yeah, yes, like Enrique said, follow us on social media. We try to keep up with the campuses. There's always so much going on. So we try to post a lot in stories along with what's going on daily. Yes, if you want to hear more from students and what's going on in their lives, check out the campus reporters. We post new content every month or so. So that includes blogs and some videos as well. And if you have any questions for our assistant directors of admissions, you could actually go onto our website and schedule a quick info session with any one of them at your own convenience. So please don't hesitate to do that as well. And if we didn't get to your question, don't worry. We'll have one of our assistant directors of admissions, like Enrique, get back to you very shortly.
Yeah, and I do have one last question. We can't let you guys go that easily all the way from Viterbo. Should students watching this apply to SYA Italy?
Yeah.
Yeah, they should.
Absolutely.
Great, thank you guys so much. I know it's really late there. We appreciate you joining us. Please wave goodbye to everyone and thanks so much.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Ciao.